Welcome to our channel, where everyday stories become powerful, emotional, and deeply inspiring life lessons. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our latest videos. Today, we bring you a heartfelt journey about fatherhood, injustice, and how one father silently fought back to protect his son. Before we begin, leave us a comment to let us know where you're watching from and how you feel as you follow this story. When I decided to leave my federal job after nearly a decade, it wasn't because I was tired or burned out. It was because I needed something more important than prestige, peace for my son, Leo. Leo is 11 years old. He's autistic. He's different from the world, but to me, he is the world. After years of living in the high-stress rhythm of security investigations, I chose to take an administrative role. No more gun, no more tense stakeouts at midnight. I wanted Leo to grow up in a place where he could draw stars on the ground, not be buried beneath judgmental stares. That's why we moved to Silver Oaks, a quiet neighborhood just outside Portland. From the very first drive-in, I was almost enchanted. White fences in perfect rows, lawns trimmed with military precision, and beige houses so identical they looked like someone had copy-pasted them from a design software. Even the mailboxes had the same chipped paint mark, something oddly specific and unsettling. I should have noticed. But back then, I wasn't looking for perfection. I was looking for a home, a place where my son could be himself. Leo doesn't like loud noises. He avoids crowds, but he's obsessed with the universe. Instead of playing soccer, he builds rocket models from cardboard. Instead of small talk, he'll spend an entire evening explaining how the air recycling system works on Mars. There were nights I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and hear murmuring from his room. Not nightmares, but whispered blueprints of galaxies. We had only been in the house for 2 days when Karen showed up. She stood at our doorstep in a spotless white tennis outfit, clipboard in hand, and a smile sharp as a razor. "Welcome to Silver Oaks," she said in a voice so sweet it gave me chills. "I'm Karen, president of the HOA, just stopping by to say hello, and a gentle reminder that around here, we value rules and order." When Leo peeked shyly from behind me, holding his favorite stuffed dinosaur, Karen barely glanced at him before turning away, as if my child was a scratch on her perfect architectural rendering. No hello, no nod, just a stare full of judgment and icy indifference. That was the first moment my father's instinct flared in my chest, but I forced myself to ignore it. I chose this place for my son, and I wanted to believe in the good. I didn't know then that the woman in the tennis whites standing at my door was the embodiment of the nightmare I thought we'd left behind. Karen wasn't just the head of the HOA. She was the one who controlled the very air of this neighborhood, redrawing boundaries with something she called order to eliminate anything that didn't fit into her monochrome world. But at the time, I didn't know any of that. All I saw was my son smiling, eyes sparkling as he gazed at our new yard, clutching a piece of sky blue chalk. And I thought, finally, we have a chance to start over. But I was wrong. Just 3 days after Karen's phony welcome, a crisp white slip of paper was shoved under my door like a warning. "Violation, obstruction of walkway," it read, with an attached photo of a chalk galaxy drawn on our front porch. It was Leo's first artwork in Silver Oaks, planets orbiting the sun, a spiraling galaxy, and right in the center was Pluto, smiling and giving a thumbs up. A piece that was innocent, radiant, and bursting with imagination. I watched as Leo held the violation notice, his eyes falling. Did I do something wrong? Maybe I should draw flowers instead of space. His voice was so soft it felt like it might vanish into the air. I had to swallow the lump in my throat to keep from crying. "No, Leo, what you made was beautiful. Karen just doesn't understand space." He didn't smile. He just bowed his head and began gathering his chalk, like he was folding away a piece of his own world. After that, the violations kept coming, as if someone were tracking our every move through binoculars. Grass too high, half an inch over the HOA standard. Trash bin, too close to the sidewalk for 12 minutes. Garage light, left on overnight, labeled as light pollution. I checked around and saw our neighbors parking on sidewalks, setting up plastic chairs on lawns, even stringing flashing lights through the night. Yet no one else got sighted. Just us. It felt like we were living under the microscope of someone obsessed with control. I tried to stay calm until Leo built a spaceship-shaped birdhouse, coated in glitter paint and lined with LED lights. He'd worked on it for a week and placed it proudly in our yard, a symbol of creativity. It was smashed within 48 hours. Not wind, not an accident. Deliberately destroyed. Leo found it first. He stood there, frozen, like someone had just crushed a creature he'd raised from birth. I knelt down to comfort him when I heard a whisper from behind the bushes. It was Jacob, the neighbor's kid, whispering to his little sister. Karen smashed it. She said it was garbage. The next morning, as I was loading things into the car, Karen appeared again, like a smug hawk. Same pristine white tennis outfit. No racket, just a voice as sweet as poison. Just a reminder, she said, chalk can stain the sidewalks. And that birdhouse, it was an eyesore. I turned to her, keeping my tone even. Did any neighbors complain? She smiled. I'm not permitted to disclose that. I nodded. So, I guess, you held a democratic vote where only you got to cast a ballot? Her eye twitched slightly. Young ones like your son can be overstimulating. This community values peace. Leo was standing just behind me, hearing every word. Karen turned and walked away, but I couldn't. That night, Leo asked me, why does she hate me? I didn't have an answer, not because I didn't know, but because the truth was too cruel to tell a child. After that, we lived more quietly. Nods, smiles, no expressions. But I started to realize this wasn't about rules or HOA policies anymore. Karen didn't care about weeds or trash bins or porch lights. She cared about control. And Leo, he was the one spark she couldn't contain. And to someone addicted to power, innocence is the greatest threat. I used to think that if I stayed quiet long enough, Karen would get bored and move on to a new target. But I was wrong. She didn't get bored, she escalated. And this time, the target wasn't chalk drawings or birdhouses, it was Leo. It started with a small dent in the shared mailbox. Could have been a delivery truck parking too close, maybe some kids playing around. But to Karen, it was a Class A damage incident. That day, I received an official letter stamped by the HOA, folded as neatly as a congressional hearing report. It cited Section 4.7. Any damage to the mailbox must be repaired within 48 hours, or it would result in a fine or a hearing before the board. I laughed at the absurdity, until I turned around and saw Leo standing behind me, reading it too. Did we break the rules again? He asked softly. And that simple question crushed my heart. Leo had started keeping count of our violations, not because he cared about the rules, but because each one made him feel like a burden. He asked me questions that should never cross a child's mind. Should I not go outside today? Was I too loud? Do I have to wear shoes? I hate shoes, but I think Karen doesn't like bare feet. I started noticing more, things I had overlooked before. The sneering laughter from Karen's son, Mason, as he zipped past Leo on his scooter, spitting sunflower seed shells at his feet. Done drawing, failed astronaut, he'd snarl before speeding off. Leo never responded, and then one day, there were no more chalk drawings on the porch. I found the box of chalk hidden in a kitchen cabinet, as if it were contraband. That's when I decided to act. I knocked on Karen's door, calmly, respectfully, professionally. She answered in a silk robe and sunglasses, looking like she was filming a new season of Desperate Housewives, HOA edition. I got straight to the point. I think your son is bullying mine. I don't want this to escalate. I just want to talk. She gave a dry chuckle. Kids will be kids. A little teasing builds character. I don't know if you understand that my son is autistic. Then maybe you should consider homeschooling, she interrupted, cold as ice. For the first time in years, I had to physically clench my fists to stop old instincts from taking over. I looked her dead in the eye. If your son comes near mine again, the first call I make will be to the police. Karen tilted her head, smirked. Is that a threat? No, I replied. It's a warning. From that day on, Karen dropped the gloves and went fully hostile. We received 4 citations in 1 week. 1 for Leo's Mars rover model sitting on the porch too long. 1 for the LED lights on the rebuilt birdhouse we had made together. 1 for unsupervised minor playing on the lawn, accompanied by a photo of Leo taken from across the street, labeled Exhibit A. That was the final line. I activated our camera system, built a case file, logged every infraction. Not to complain, but to prepare for a well-documented legal fight. Leo didn't know any of it. All he knew was that his world was shrinking. No drawing, no reading, no dreaming. Just sitting on the porch, waiting for the next attack from Karen. And then it came. The day after, Mason shoved Leo in the lunch line, spilling juice all over his shirt. Leo came home with his spaceship model torn in half. Not a single tear. Just eyes that looked as empty as a sky without stars. Dad, are we moving again? That question. That was when I knew. This wasn't about the HOA, or rules, or pride. It was about Leo. About whether my son had the right to exist. And I would not let anyone erase him. Not Karen, not anyone. That night, after Leo had fallen asleep with his stuffed dinosaur in his arms, I sat alone under the dim yellow light of my office lamp. Beside me was our 17th violation notice, and a spaceship model with 1 torn wing, the only thing left from the exhibition Leo had poured his heart into. I wasn't angry anymore, not because I had calmed down, but because my anger had turned into strategy. I opened the bottom drawer, the one I swore I'd never touch again after leaving the field. Inside were my old federal ID, a Homeland Security badge, and a phrase I had never forgotten: do not photocopy. I placed it on the desk, letting the light catch the silver edge. For the first time in years, I stepped back into who I truly was. Not a tired father, but someone who once dismantled complex criminal networks. And now, the target was Karen. I started where I'm strongest: paperwork. Every HOA notice, every email, every decision Karen had made. I collected, scanned, organized, labeled. I created a spreadsheet of violations: time, reason, photo evidence, target. The results were shocking, but not surprising. Nearly 70% of citations went to just 8 households, including ours. Coincidence? Number systematic? Absolutely. Next, I looked into Richard, Karen's husband. A small real estate company called Vance Holdings, LLC, kept showing up in property transfer records around our area. I connected the dots. Many homes that received repeated HOA violations had been forced to sell, and almost all were purchased by Richard's company at below-market prices. This wasn't just abuse of power. It was a calculated profit model. Fine, pressure, acquire. I didn't call the media. I didn't go live on social media. I stayed silent. Karen thought I'd given up, and that was my advantage. I smiled through the next HOA meeting. Still polite, still pleasant. But when I raised my hand to speak, the whole room fell silent. I have a small question about this year's infrastructure fund, I said. $14,000 is listed under community enhancement. Could we get the name of the contractor? Karen stiffened. That's a standard expenditure, she replied. Of course, I nodded, eyes locked on her. But according to HOA bylaws, any item over $5,000 requires disclosure of the vendor's identity. I'm just asking for transparency. Her composed expression cracked. No one said a word, but I knew. I had just knocked her off her axis. That night, I went further. I called Daniels, an old friend from the Department of Justice. I've got an HOA case that reeks worse than the Panama Papers. He laughed. Name? Karen, and I've got the evidence. I sent him everything. Daniels didn't joke after that. If this is real, she's going to need a damn good lawyer, and maybe a priest. I didn't stop. I began reaching out to residents who had been targeted, not to commiserate, but to gather facts. Each person had a story. Ms. Delaney, fined because her flower pot was off-center by 3 inches. Mr. Ronald, ordered to remove his wind chime because it interfered with community auditory balance. Karen had built an empire on fear and isolation. But when the silenced realize they're not alone, her power vanishes. I wasn't after revenge. I was after liberation. For Leo. For kids forced to be quiet. For people made to nod and comply. And more than anything, I wanted Karen to watch her empire collapse while still standing on the podium she built for herself. And the HOA Gala, that would be the perfect stage for opening night. This year's HOA Gala was organized by Karen under the grand title, Legacy of the Community, One Vision, One Heart. To her, this wasn't just a wine and white tablecloth event with gold ribbon chairs. It was a coronation without a crown, her moment to be hailed as the Queen of Silver Oaks. What she didn't know was that this same stage would mark the end of her reign. I arrived right on time, dressed in a dark blazer, with a small badge pinned to the inside of my lapel. Not to show authority, but to remind myself that I was no longer just a tired father, but a representative for everyone Karen had tried to silence. Leo came with me. He wore his favorite NASA hoodie and clutched his sketchbook, not to draw rockets this time, but to witness the truth. Before we stepped out of the car, I asked, "Are you sure about this?" Leo nodded. "I want to see her face." The banquet hall was glowing with lights, heavy with perfume and wine. Fake laughter echoed like a rehearsed chorus. Karen took the stage in a champagne silk gown, her gaze sweeping across the room like she was counting votes. "We've built a community of order, peace, and unity," she began sweetly. "We do not tolerate chaos. We choose stability." I stepped forward, no apologies, no small talk. "Before we crown anyone tonight, I have a few documents to share." The entire room fell silent, like the oxygen had been sucked out. Karen blinked. "This isn't the time." "No," I said. "This is exactly the time." I placed a thick folder on the podium. This is a record of all HOA violations issued under Karen Vance's term. Nearly 70% targeted just 8 households. Of those, 6 were forced to sell. And guess who bought them? Vance Holdings, registered under her husband. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I flipped to the next page. An email, printed clearly, authenticated. "Tighten the rules around the Johnsons. They might move on their own." Karen rushed toward me, her voice cracking. "This is slander." "I call it evidence." A resident stood up, Ms. Delaney, leaning on a cane. "She fined me for taking my trash out late." I had just finished chemotherapy. Another, Ron, gray-haired, raised his hand. "My wife can't sleep without her wind chimes. She made me take them down for sound pollution." A young mother stood. "She shut down my daughter's lemonade stand for unlicensed sales. She's 9. The truth spread like a tidal wave. One by one, people rose. No one shouted, no one cried, just the truth, clear, sharp, undeniable. Karen stepped back, eyes wide, hands trembling. And then, a voice from the back of the room. A woman stepped forward with a camera crew. "I'm Alyssa Grant, Channel 9 News. Mrs. Vance, can you confirm the link between HOA citations and your husband's real estate acquisitions?" Karen turned to leave, but standing at the exit was a city compliance officer. "Karen Vance, we need to speak with you regarding potential coercive property manipulation within this community." She said nothing, no smile, no arrogance, just a retreating step. And then she disappeared backstage, like the ghost of a fallen empire. After that night's gala, Silver Oaks was never the same again, and that was a good thing. Karen's nameplate was taken down in silence, but the echo of her actions rang through the community. Within a week, the HOA board was dissolved, all fines were frozen, and financial records were placed under investigation. The same neighbors who used to keep their heads down when walking past Karen's house started talking, connecting, and, for the first time, truly listening to each other. Karen left the neighborhood on a gray morning. No farewell, no announcement, just a "for sale" sign planted in a lawn trimmed like a razor blade, and an SUV driving away with all of her pride in the back seat. No one waved, no one mourned. But my battle didn't end when Karen left. I still spent late nights in front of my screen, finalizing reports, submitting files to the county, working with legal agencies to make sure this never happened again, to anyone. As for Leo, he didn't need to know about policies, clauses, or courtrooms. He just needed to know he was safe. And that truth began showing itself, day by day. I started seeing him drawing again in the front yard, without me hovering nearby. Rocket models began to reappear on the porch. The new birdhouse, version 3.0, now had aluminum foil wings and solar-powered twinkle lights. Every night, Leo would place it in the exact same spot, like a silent declaration. I'm still here, and I'm not afraid anymore. One afternoon, while I was organizing the garage, he walked in holding his sketchbook. "Dad," Leo said softly, "I know why she hated me." I put the wrench down. "Why?" "Because I'm not like other kids, and she couldn't control what she didn't understand." I didn't say anything. I walked over and hugged him tightly. "You're right, but it's your difference that makes this world worth living in." That night, we hung a small sign in front of our home, just a hand-painted wooden board with a simple message: "Freedom Zone, imagination not prohibited." The following week, neighbors began to visit. Ms. Delaney brought fresh-baked muffins. Ron gave Leo a satellite model kit. A boy from down the block, who had only watched from afar before, asked if he could join Leo in drawing. The same people who once stayed silent were now the first to rebuild the community. Karen built her kingdom on fear, but it was love, courage, and truth that brought it down. One late night, as I was putting away papers, Leo came in, hair tousled, holding his stuffed dinosaur. "Are you working?" he asked. "Yeah," I smiled, "just cleaning up old files." "The HOA stuff?" I nodded. "Is it done?" I looked at the closed binder on the desk. "It's done." Leo sat beside me. "Then tomorrow, can we draw a city on Mars? I've got a new blueprint." I smiled and nodded. "Tomorrow, and this time, you can use as much glitter as you want." In the quiet, I watched him scribble a few lines. A dome, solar panels, stars stretching across the horizon. My son was back. No more hiding. No more shrinking. Just freedom. And I knew. No matter what came next, we, a father, a child, and a dream drawn in chalk, had already won. In today's world, not every battle is fought with the sound of gunfire. Some wars are quieter, fought between a father and a ruthless system of power, between a sensitive child and the harshness of those who fail to understand. And it's in those moments that courage, love, and unwavering resolve become the most powerful weapons of all. The story of a father protecting his autistic son from the oppression of a tyrannical HOA is a powerful reminder that silence isn't always the path to peace. Sometimes, it's the very thing that allows injustice to grow. Karen, the symbol of manipulative authority, didn't just rule through rules. She ruled through fear, isolation, and petty intimidation. But what she failed to foresee was this: when you push a father to the edge of love, you strike a place no one should ever touch, the heart of a parent willing to risk everything to protect their child. The first lesson is about the power of empathy. The world doesn't need everyone to be the same. What it needs is the compassion and bravery to embrace difference as a vital part of life. Leo, with his sensitivity and brilliant imagination, wasn't the problem. He was a miracle. And when we stop trying to bend others into molds, we begin to see the richness that diversity brings. The second lesson is about civic responsibility in a community. Never believe that something is too small to speak up about. Unjust fines, cruel words, judgmental stares, when left unchallenged, become the invisible blades that chip away at freedom. Every voice, every small act of resistance matters. They are the first steps toward change. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, believe in truth, even when it stands alone. The father in this story didn't shout or fight with violence. He chose the harder road, gathering evidence, uniting his neighbors, and exposing the truth with strategy and integrity. Because he knew that justice doesn't come from bursts of rage, it comes from long-standing resolve. In life, we will all, at some point, be a Leo, pushed to the margins because of who we are. And one day, we may have to become the father, rising not just for ourselves, but for the ones we love. And when that time comes, may you remember this: truth doesn't have to be loud. It only has to stand firm, and it can change the world. If this story touched your heart, whether through empathy, anger, or simply a belief that truth still matters, don't forget to hit like to support the spirit of justice. Share this video with anyone who feels isolated, misunderstood, or is searching for the strength to stand up for what's right. And if you want to join us on more emotional journeys like this one, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Most importantly, leave a comment below. What did this story mean to you? Have you ever felt like Leo or known a Karen in your life? We welcome all your thoughts, positive or critical, because that's how this community grows, through honesty and conversation.